Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. Now, I know that this is no surprise, but we all know that Trump is not doing too great with the ladies here, alright? And I'm probably not doing too great with the ladies here either. But it's okay. I take that with my stride, and I take it with happily, because it's not that big of a deal. I know that my terms of media, my audience doesn't really resonate all that too much with women, especially if I do the men's section, where that's really not gonna work with the ladies. But that's okay because we have this here that Trump really starts talking about specifically on the transgender issues, and them playing in sports. Now, I think this will be a big thing. I will go through it here in a little bit through another article, kind of going over this and all the other issues. So, without further ado, let's get started here. So we have this from Charlie Kirk saying, "This is what moral clarity looks like. How do you plan on addressing the transgender issue in women's sports? I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports. We are very concerned for their safety." And Trump makes a rebuttal. So we'll watch this, and then I'll kind of address my opinions later.
You are worried about biological men and boys competing against women and girls in sports. Just show me. That's almost that is the entire room. And I know you have a question.
I do.
By the way, excuse me, it's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Your question,
Yes.
Your name and your hometown.
My name is Linda, and I'm from Milton, Georgia.
Good.
But originally Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, wow.
I'd get that
good.
in there. My question is, how do you plan on addressing the transgender issue in women's sports? I have 9 grandchildren, 6 of them female, all playing sports, and we are very concerned for their safety, not just on the field and the courts, but in their locker rooms as well.
Right. It's such an easy question, and everybody in the room, and you know that answer, we're not going to let it happen. You look, just yesterday, they had a volleyball match. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Where a person that transitioned, okay? We have to be very careful because this can terminate your political career if you say it's slightly off, all right? But transitioned from man to female and was on a volleyball. And I saw the slam. It was a slam. I never saw a ball hit so hard. Hit the girl on the head. But other people, even in volleyball, they've been they've been really hurt badly, women playing men. But you don't have to do the volleyball. We stop it. We stop it. We absolutely stop it. You can't have it. It's a man playing in the game. I mean, physically, from a muscular standpoint, even if it was a little bit less, maybe they do all sorts of tests and drugs and everything else. Look at what's happened in swimming. Look at the records that are being broken.
So how do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just
councils?
ban it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen. Not a big deal.
Up and
Of course, what we're going to have here is like, well, JM, there is a lot of people, a lot of women. This is mostly a Fox News area, so it's not really fair to say like, that this is like, a all female thing that are going for this, right? And I will agree with you guys. I could say this is a Fox News panel. Most of them were probably going to be conservative in the first place. I mean, the only kind of thing was the woman was from Brooklyn, New York, so that's kind of interesting that she was from there. But I do agree that that this is something that is only all for going the Fox News era, right? Because this is true. But I want to think that this is maybe be something that people just don't talk about behind closed doors. I think this is something that a lot of people are concerned about, especially women. And I don't think women are talking about it because they'll get smashed in the social stigma. And I'll be talking about this very briefly here about the situation and how I think you ladies kind of feel about this whole situation here. It says transgender sports is a 2024 sleeper issue. Democratic Senator Brown, Tester, Baldwin are on fire for votes. Now it says here, every election has issues that are predictable, abortion and the economy this year, but also some that surprise the political class. This year, one sleeper issue is progressive transgender coursing, which is playing against Democrats in races across the country. Consider the ad running in Ohio against Senator Sherrod Brown, in which a narrator says Brown is too liberal for Ohio. He voted to let transgender biological men participate in women's sports. Okay, so I think one of the biggest things that we can do here, and this is going to be something similar to what Tim Pool is going to be saying, but I think the best thing that we can say here is that we remove to let transgender biological men. We just say he voted to let men participate in women's sports. That's what we have to do, because we can't just say transgender biological men, because it kind of lowers the bar for it, right? If you just say men that participate in women's sports, it's going to have a bigger impact, and it's going to have a change. Now, I understand that some people are going to say, well, some on my YouTube channel that are saying like, names matter or things matter, and I understand in this way, right? It would be a transgender person, it would be a biological man. However, we need to understand, in order to push back, we need to be very strong and very strong on some of the words that we have here, because the biological men is just like, it's kind of like whatever. We got to say just men, and that was going to ring bigger into people's ears. That's just why I think here. Some media fact checkers are calling this claim false, but not without outstanding sleight of hand. The ad sponsored by Republican-aligned Super PAC Cities Mr. Brown's vote against a failed 2021 amendment offered by Stormy Turflefield. When we put this vote up on the Senate's website, it says a report by WKYC in Cleveland, we see it had nothing to do with allowing transgender people to participate in women's sports. It was actually only about money. Correspondent Fact says something about this too, which is terrible. Has a similar sloppy take, saying that much arguments about Mr. Brown are false because the 2021 amendment, as well as similar one this year, etc., do not dictate the athletic eligibility, etc., etc. But here's the big thing that I think people need to understand, right? The big thing here is what this says, right? It says, the last year, 69% of Americans told Gallup that transgender athletes should only be allowed to compete on sports teams that conform with their birth gender. So, this was last year. This is 2023, guys. 69% of Americans told Gallup that transgender athletes should only be allowed to compete on sports teams that conform with their birth gender. That's 69%. That's well over 50%. That's honestly, if you want to round it up, it's 70%. This isn't bigotry. For most Americans, it's a matter of fairness, as well as the equal opportunity for women in sports enshrined in Title IX. Not long ago, most Democrats believed in that principle, but these days, the hard edge of the transgender movement has dictated that its view of gender must be imposed nationwide. Senate Democrats have toed that line. Goes on to say here, this includes whether minors should have access to medical gender transitions, which I would say child sex surgeries, okay? That's what we should call it, not medical gender transitions. No, it should be called child sex surgeries. And then that Super PAC ad about Sean Brown says he supports allowing puberty blockers and sex surgeries for minor children, which I don't, I vehemently against. And the source is an interview in which Brown said, a child's health care decisions are between them, their parents, their families, their doctors, not politicians. And that is something I 100% agree as well. But I think there's also say with child harm. Now, I'm going to talk about this, right? So what we have here, it says, according to one study, 98% of children who transition socially early in life continue to transition as adults. However, other studies have found that the desistance rate for gender incongruent children is between 61 and 98%. Some have criticized these statistics, noting that some children who were diagnosed with gender identity disorder were actually just very gender nonconforming. Other studies have found different desistance rates, saying Singh, Bradley, and Zucker, 87.8% persisted, while 12.2% persisted. Says with the others saying 9.4% of persisted, and Green 2%, etc. But all across the board, it is a very, very high desistance rate with the transgender youth. So what we're doing is here, guys, is that we're allowing these children to be butchered, to have these sex changes in order to cater to these weird transgender norms, which is complete insanity. It needs to stop, and I think wording is very big here. I do agree with one of my commenters say words mean something, right? And when we have to say words here, we have to be very specific on this particular issue, right? Because it is men entering women's sports, and they're destroying women's sports. And ladies, I'm going to be perfectly honest here. And tell me in the comments down below if you think this is not a thing that you think, or you're worried about it. Are you worried about the social stigma that you're going to get if you go out and say this, and you're going to get hate from it, right? If that's something that you're actually worried about, please put down in the comments. I would like to say you're not going to get any shame here on this channel about thinking that, or what your opinions are. I welcome them all. I'm going to argue with you, of course, but I'll welcome them. It's good to have open discourse in this country. But I think that a lot of women and a lot of people are secretly do not like this transgender thing. I don't think they like biological men or men in general in their sports or in their bathrooms. And I think that women are only tying this behind this issue because they don't want the stigma or the blast or the social stigma, rather, going against it. So they say nothing or they go with it just so they don't get hate. I think that's what majority of the women are, really. And I think we have to try to make it to where it's more fair and more reasonable for women to talk about and address these issues. Because this does concern women. It really does. Because at the end of the day, the ladies are the ones that are getting assaulted, they're getting beaten. They're the ones that are losing their sports, threatened in their bathrooms. Like, this is a serious deal for ladies in general. Men honestly don't have this issue because we can just enter the women's sports, beat them, kick them out of their sports, and get money and be free, right? Whereas women, they have to deal with all the ramifications. And women are not talking about it because I think the social stigma of it all. And ladies, go ahead and talk about it. You'll see me defend you night and day, all day, every day about this situation because it does concern you. I have a lot of other opinions about, certain women and stuff like that that's going on in this country, and that's here than you're there, right? But this particularly does concern you. And I think that we need to talk about this more and kind of the issues that goes on within our country. So I think that the biggest thing that we should deal with here is how we address this and why the transgender issue is such a massive problem. Because, again, these are things that are a huge problem, and I think these people, and I think things need to be directed. I think there's a pushback. I think it is a sleeper thing. I think people are waking up, and it may be actually one of the things that actually turns down the election. I think the reason why Trump is doing this is so that we can cater to some of these people and get them out to say more, because it really is concerning. And you're going to have people saying that, oh, Trump is against, Trump is against transgenders or whatever, or Trump is going to be banning transgenders from transgender athletes. No, he's just banning the ones that are entering female sports and only allowing them to be in their own category. That's all he's doing. He's not banning all transgender athletes. He's just banning them from entering women's sports. So let's make that perfectly clear. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Like, guys, share. As always, take care, my friends.
I'm disgusted by what I see in public. Even people closest to us can't be trusted, because it's algorithmic disease, the social media.